Okay, thanks so much for joining. My name is Julie Swayze. I'm Manager of Instructional Design for Custom Learning Designs. And today I'm going to be talking about collaborative learning. Start by thinking about skills. We hear a lot about skills these days, whether it's the skills gap, the need to upskill, the need to reskill. So I want you to think about what are the top skills needed to succeed in the workforce, both today and in the future. So according to the World Economic Forum, they put out a Future of Jobs report. These are the top 10 skills that were identified by companies around the world. And if you look at it carefully, you can notice something interesting about it. 8 of the 10 of these skills are not your traditional hard skills or technical skills that are very job specific. Rather, they're soft skills that are easily transferable across roles. And these skills are becoming increasingly important, so much so that they're being referred to as power skills. And these are distinctly human skills. You'll see things like creative thinking, curiosity, empathy. And with the increasing rise of AI that's starting to automate a lot of tasks that we do every day in our jobs, companies are increasingly looking for employees to bring these distinctly human power skills to the role. Now, I want you to take a moment and think about what skills your reps need to excel in the field. I do a lot of needs analysis work, and I typically begin by interviewing sales leaders and managers and asking them to think about what good looks like and describe for me what are your highest performing reps do that really sets them apart from the others. And invariably, it comes down to these same power skills. So I hear things like they're good at building relationships, they partner with their accounts and work with cross functional partners. They're problem solvers, they think critically, strategically, and creatively. They demonstrate flexibility and agility. They can adapt to market changes and tailor their calls to meet the needs of different types of customers. And they're great communicators. They ask good probing questions, they use active listening skills, etc. So we can see that these soft skills or power skills are really important. And a great way to help your reps develop them is through collaborative learning. So, what is collaborative learning? Very simply, it's a form of active learning in which two or more individuals work together to achieve a common goal. If we break that down a little bit, active learning just simply means that people are actively engaged with the content. They're not just sitting back and watching a didactic lecture. Working together, they're discussing things, they're problem solving, they're coming up with solutions. And then common goal, this can be pretty broad. It could be that they're working together to just understand a difficult concept. They're working together to brainstorm solutions to a problem, or maybe they're creating something entirely new, like a PowerPoint presentation. And another key concept associated with collaborative learning is this notion of positive interdependence. It's really important that all of the individuals in a group feel that the work is beneficial both to them as an individual and to the group as a whole, and that they understand that success depends on everybody. We all sink or swim together. So I want to just briefly review some influences on collaborative learning. Collaborative learning is based on this concept known as constructivism. And constructivists believe that knowledge is something that we actively construct versus just passively absorb or take in. So, one proponent of this was Jean Piaget, the Swiss psychologist. He was a leader of the cognitive constructivism, and they believe that knowledge is something that we actively construct based on our prior experiences. So when we take in new information, we're trying to make sense of it based on the knowledge we already have. And there's also social constructivism, which was led by Russian psychologist Lev Vygotsky. They believe that knowledge is something that we construct primarily through social and cultural interactions with others. Now, collaborative learning is kind of an umbrella term, but it takes different forms. So I'm going to go through those briefly. First is cooperative learning. This primarily originated in K through 12 schools. And here individuals are working both individually and together to accomplish a goal. These tasks are usually close-ended, content-specific, and they're working in a highly structured way. They might be assigned individual roles and responsibilities, and there's a teacher guiding and supervising them throughout. Now, collaborative learning originated in British institutions of higher ed. Here you're working much more in a coordinated effort to achieve a goal. The tasks are much more open-ended and complex, and you're working in a self-directed fashion. There's not necessarily a clear division of labor or anyone telling you exactly how to work together. And finally, there's problem-based learning. This originated in Canadian medical schools. And here the goal is really to work together to identify approaches to complex real-world or realistic problems. So the goal is not really to find the solution to a problem. These are open-ended problems that don't necessarily have a defined solution or answer. It's more about the process. You're working in a self-directed fashion with a teacher facilitating the discussion and monitoring your progress throughout. So now let's look at some ways you can use collaborative learning in your sales training. I'm going to walk through 5 different examples. First example is to learn complex topics or concepts. So oftentimes reps have to learn, maybe highly clinical concepts that can be really challenging, and it can be helpful to work together to learn these. One example of this is mechanism of disease or mechanism of action. So we've had reps come into a workshop setting, place them into small groups of, let's say, 4 to 6 people. And as you can see here, they work on this oversized work mat together. So the work mat shows mechanism of disease in action, but key information is missing. And they actually have little index cards where they're writing in the missing information, writing out labels, and then have to correctly position them on the work mat. Similarly, we've taken a mechanism of action of a drug and we've broken it down into puzzle pieces, and again, had people work together in small groups to rearrange the puzzle pieces to show the mechanism of action. And with both of these examples, what's important is the reps are really talking through the process together. They're deciding where the label should go, how to position it. And then probably most importantly, once they've done that, they're having to teach back to others in the room to tell the whole story of the mechanism of disease or action. Another topic that has been challenging for reps is immunology. So this example is how we handled it in a virtual workshop setting. We put people again into small groups, but here we used virtual breakout rooms. And each group was given a PowerPoint slide with key components of innate and adaptive immunity, but they weren't necessarily in the right position. They might have been missing labels. So again, they had to work together, talk through the process, and drag and drop the pieces into the right order, and then present back to others. And then finally, in a live workshop setting, we've actually had people act this out. So we've given everyone a role to play, and they've had to physically move their bodies around, interact with one another, and talk through the process. So, what are some benefits of this? First is that reps are actively engaging with the concept. This can be like a more theoretical concept that if you're just having to answer a quiz question about it, you're probably not really understanding it that well. But if you're having to physically label things, move them around, and teach back to others, you're actively engaging. And then promotes deeper level understanding. Again, you're talking through it, you're having to present back, so you're really understanding it at that deeper level. Next is to complete gamified challenges. So oftentimes in workshops, we'll do games like e-games or board games to have reps recall key information. But rather than having them do this on an individual level, you can place them into small teams. So here they're having to not just recall the answer themselves, but come to some consensus. And if there's disagreements, you might have to advocate for why you think your answer is right and give support for it. And this gets back to that notion of positive interdependence that I spoke about earlier. Everyone on the team has to work together to really accomplish the goal. You all sink or swim together. And then with verbalization challenges, we've also gamified them. We've put people into teams and had them complete scavenger hunts where they might have to move around a room together, scanning QR codes to get scenarios and have to verbalize a response, or escape rooms where they might have to complete a series of small verbalization activities together as a group to get codes to help unlock the room. And with both of these, again, you're having to work together to identify how you're going to approach the call and then do round robin verbalization so that everyone is actively engaged. So here the benefits are that it helps build teams. We know that teams are increasingly important with so many people being remote or virtual. And for sales reps in particular, they have to work as a team with cross-functional partners, whether it be market access or medical. And then you engages learners through gamification and friendly competition. This is just a fun, engaging way to teach these concepts. Next is to plan and verbalize calls. So a key part of workshops is usually that you're doing, pre-call planning and then having to do some role play or verbalization of calls to customers. But you can do that in a collaborative way by doing it in small groups. So here, rather than a standard pre-call planning worksheet, we might give them an oversized work mat where they're working together to identify how they would approach a call. And what's nice here is that you can have different types of reps in the small group. So you might mix more tenured reps with less experienced reps, and they can learn from each other. Or reps even from different parts of the region can share their experiences calling on different customers. For the verbalization portion, you also can do it in small groups so that reps are hearing from multiple people how this similar type of call might sound differently depending on how someone approaches it, or different ways that they might handle an objection. And the benefits of this are that it's an opportunity to share experiences from the field. Again, you're getting that diversity of experiences and you're hearing from different people, and you're hearing different ways to verbalize calls, how other people can show what good looks like. Next is to strategize approaches to cases. This goes back to that problem-based learning that I spoke about earlier. And we typically do a couple types of cases. We'll do patient cases where reps are looking at a particular patient type, maybe their medical history, their test results, etc., and trying to strategize how a doctor might approach that case. We also look at healthcare practice cases where there's some real world challenge that the reps are trying to overcome. So maybe it's a healthcare practice that has been slow to adopt their drug, and you're looking at mock CRM data, call history, etc. And what's interesting about the case-based approach that we do here is that we have reps first do it individually and then do it collaboratively. So as pre-work, they're assigned to review the case on their own and answer some questions. Have they had experience with this type of challenge in their own territory? How would they approach it? What strategies would they use? But then they come to a workshop setting and they're placed in a small group. And here they're having to really talk through it together and come up with new strategies, new tactics. So the benefits are that it promotes higher level skills. Problem-based learning is a really great way to encourage critical thinking and strategic thinking because, again, there's not necessarily a solution or a right or wrong answer to these. It's more about the process of thinking through it. And then it highlights the relevance and real-world application of content. We make sure to develop these cases very carefully with managers so that they're very realistic. And finally, you can use collaborative learning to have reps share their experiences and insights. So we know that reps really enjoy getting together with people from their region and just talking through what's working, what challenges they're facing in the field. So we've done these little menu cards where we have reps from a region get together in kind of like a coffee shop environment. We might have some refreshments in the room, and we give them a menu where they can choose which topic they want to discuss based on what's most relevant or of interest to them. So in this example, they could talk about business planning, clinical expertise, etc. They choose a topic, and then they're given a list of discussion starters. And really, again, this is all about sharing experiences. What have you found works? What challenges are you having? And working together, people can brainstorm solutions. We also really make sure that we allow time for debriefs and reflections at the end of all of our workshops. So rather than having this be an individual activity, we have oversized boards where people can write down their key insights or their takeaways or how they're going to apply what they learned in the field. And again, you're writing out your own, but you're seeing what other people write out as well. And there's an opportunity to discuss it further with them. And then lastly, we've done word clouds. And this is similar to the whiteboard type idea, but here oftentimes we'll use it to motivate and inspire reps. So for instance, after you've heard a firsthand patient account of living with a disease, we might ask the reps to identify a single word that they think resonates with them about that patient's courage or the hope that they can hopefully inspire by going out in the field and selling a drug that's going to potentially benefit them. So here the benefits are that it gives reps time to reflect, to share successes and challenges with one another, and it motivates reps to consider possible applications and value of their work. So collaborative learning can be a really great practice, but I think it can be a really great method of learning, but I think there's some best practices you need to follow to ensure it's done well. So first is consider logistics. Groupings are important. You want to think about what types of people you're grouping. If you want to mix more experienced reps with less experienced reps, if you want to mix people from different regions. Group size, usually 4 to 6 is a good size. Anything more, the discussions can get unwieldy, and anything less, you're not really benefiting from that diversity of opinion. Time frame, you want to allow enough time for reps to get comfortable working together and really discuss, especially something like a case that's going to take a lot of discussion of strategy and people need to come to a consensus, you probably want to allow about an hour. And then use of technology. You can do a lot of these collaborative learning activities, as I've shown, with little to no technology, but you could also use things like chat rooms or social media. It's really up to you what you want to use. And I would just say, if you are using certain types of technology, you might want to consult with your MLR team to make sure they're okay with it. Next is to share the rationale. It's always important to share why we're doing an activity, how it ties back to the learning objectives. But in this case, it's also important to share why you're doing this in a collaborative way. What are the benefits of working collaboratively? Next is to prepare learners to work together and set expectations. So if you're putting people into a group who maybe don't know each other, you might want to have an icebreaker or allow some time to really get them comfortable working together. And then it's very important to set expectations. There's this concept known as psychological safety that's really important. It's actually been found to be the number one predictor of team success. And it basically just means that individuals feel that it's a safe environment to share their opinions. They're not going to be judged. Everyone has a responsibility to be respectful and to be open to the discussion. So you want to set that expectation from the start. Next is to establish a structure. Now, while you don't want things to be overly structured, you want to give learners some flexibility to approach the problems how they see fit. You do want to check in every so often and also ensure accountability by potentially having reps either present back at the end of the activity or take a short quiz or assessment. Related to this is to check in often, but not too often. Again, you don't want to be telling them every step of the way what to do, but you can't really expect to just put people in a room for an hour and not check in at all and have them be successful. So you do want to periodically check in, answer questions, see if you can help guide them along the way. And then finally is to include time for reflection. You want them to have time to reflect on what they learned, but also on the collaborative learning approach as well. How did they work well collaboratively? What could they improve for future? Because they're learning how to work again together as a team is an important part of this. I'm going to close by just reviewing some benefits of collaborative learning. So collaborative learning is engaging to learners. They're actively learning and working with one another. It builds teams. They're building that trust and relationship. It recognizes diverse contributions, whether it's from people across the country, from people with different levels of experience in sales, or just different backgrounds. It strengthens communications because people are talking and using active listening and coming to consensus. It promotes higher level skills, especially the problem-based learning. You're getting at really critical thinking skills and strategic thinking skills. And finally, it helps develop future leaders. A lot of the skills that are needed to work well collaboratively are things like building consensus, respecting others' opinions, and all of that is important for future leaders as well. So as you can hopefully see, I think collaborative learning is a great way to help foster these power skills and to make your reps more successful today and in the future. So thanks so much. If anyone has any questions, I can, stay a little bit. You can come up to me or you can see us in the booth. We are booth 413. Thank you.